What did it get me? Why did I do it?
Hello. As you saw from that video, I recorded this video already last night, and for some reason, it didn't take. I don't know if it's because my screen kept falling asleep. I don't know. I don't know what happened. All I know is that I recorded over an hour worth of content and it is nowhere to be found. So I'm doing it again. Hello, I am Low Life Lauren. I am a multi-hyphenate creative. I am almost at 100 subscribers. When I reach 100 subscribers, I will be posting an NGL link so people can ask me questions anonymously, and I will do a Q&A once I get to 100 subscribers. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed thus far. I'm at 79. I am 21 away from my goal. Well, my goal is 500, but I'm 21 away from 100, which is 1/5 of the way to 500. So, progress, right? Today's topic is a double. It's a two for one. It's a twofer. And I'm going to be talking about toxic family traits and troubled teenagers and the correlation between the two. I have my handy dandy notebook with my notes. And if you saw my last video like this, The Black Woman's Plight, it is now at 245 views. So thank you so much to everybody who has supported it. Thank you to everybody who has engaged with it. Thank you to the people who even disliked it. I actually really love that for me because it lets me know I'm pissing off some people. And I don't know, maybe I really enjoy that. But without further ado, let's get into it. First and foremost, I would like to offer a disclaimer that everything I am saying is from my own perspective, my own personal experience, and my own observations from life. Also, I have extracted notes from articles that I found while I was taking notes for this video. There, of course, will be blurbs posted and edited onto these to support things that I'm saying so that we are all on the same page. I do not wish to offend anybody, but how I will say that hit dogs holler. And if you have exhibited any of these traits as a parent or caretaker or older relative, or even as a troubled teen, I'm sorry if I offend you, but as somebody who was a troubled teen that grew up in a toxic family, go to therapy. I am. Anyway, so the first note I have regarding traits that I believe are exhibited as observed within toxic family traits, most of the time, religion, but specifically Christianity, is involved. And once again, I'm sorry if I offend anybody or if this makes you uncomfortable, but I am literally just stating things from my personal experience of life and from things I have seen. And I actually did ask people on my TikTok and Instagram for their input on things I should mention in these videos. So this was a common thread. Okay? Okay. Christianity and Christian beliefs have upheld systems that are very oppressive and conservative and strict beyond reason. A lot of times in Christian households, you are expected to live in the traditional lifestyles that are predestined for you from before you're even born because of what your family believes. A lot of times in Christian households and traditional/conservative households, girls are raised to be mothers and wives. You're not really expected to be a breadwinner or anything like that. You're expected to keep house and home, which is something I also talked about in the Black Woman's Plight video. Women, especially Black women, are expected to be subservient and servient. Cook, clean, raise the babies, call it a day. And oftentimes, girls are put into these motherly roles and stuff like that before they're even out of the house, before they're even in high school. Ma, I love you. I love you to death. I appreciate you so much. But we have talked about how I felt like I had too much responsibility at a young age because I became an older sibling at 8 years old. And I assumed so many responsibilities that I definitely was not ready for. I was changing diapers, walking to the store by myself, and all this type of stuff. And I don't think any kid, regardless of gender, should have to deal with that type of responsibility. That is something that kids aren't supposed to do, in my opinion. I don't think a kid needs to be making bottles for their younger sibling and burping their younger sibling. Now, don't get me wrong, it is not without, it's still within reason, but I do think after a certain point, it becomes a bit too much. And I also believe that there is a big double standard when it comes to raising boys in these traditional households versus raising girls, because a lot of times there's more leniency with the boys. My own personal experience, like I said, I became an older sibling at 8 years old. My little brother was born when I was 8. And since then, as we're both growing up, I've noticed disparities in the ways we were raised. For example, I was not really allowed to have boyfriends in middle school and stuff like that. My little brother had his first girlfriend at like 12. Met my mom, was able to hang out at the house and everything, all types of stuff. That was not happening when I was in middle school. I could not get any tattoos until I was 18. My little brother has a half sleeve and he is 18 right now. He got his first tattoo at 17. I was not really allowed out of the house like that. If I was, I had to be home at a certain time. Not really the same case for him. But anyway, with traditional families and like conservative families, I've noticed such a big disparity between the way boys and girls are raised. And it's like, my mom has even acknowledged that she raises us with a double standard. And I told her that infuriates me. That actually makes me very upset and it hurts me because it's not fair. I'm not going to get too deep into that, but yeah. That was my first bullet point with when it came to toxic families, traditional lifestyles and Christian beliefs and how oppressive they can be, especially growing up as a girl. Another point that I have about toxic families is the excess, not even excess, just the presence of shaming and harsh criticism. You could get shamed for your sexuality. You could get shamed for your lifestyle choices, whether it be if you're a pothead or if you aren't normal. Even like the way you dress can be shamed and criticized and used against you. Body image can be used against you. And that is something else I talked about in my Black Woman's Plight video about the spectrum of body shaming. And another disclaimer, I am not dismissing fat phobia in any way because this country is built on fat phobia. Even airplane seats are an example of fat phobia. And as someone who has been, at one point, my doctor told me I was overweight when I was younger, which I still don't get. I was just a little chubby. And I've also been skinny shamed. And like I said, I'm not trying to dismiss fat shaming and fat phobia, but skinny shaming is a real thing. People criticizing you because you look a certain way is not right at all on any end of the spectrum. Okay? That's just that. But shaming and criticism can go so far, and it makes you insecure, self-conscious, sensitive, uncomfortable. It just leads to a lot of discomfort. And your home and your family is supposed to be your safe space, but sometimes they're your harshest critics. Sometimes they say things that cut you so deep, and sometimes it is hard to recover from that stuff and hard to get over the stuff that you've heard. I talked about this in the Black Woman's Plight video about how I've been told, "Oh, you're so skinny. Why are you so skinny?" Been asked if I was anorexic and stuff like that, just because I don't meet the expectations of what I'm supposed to look like. And that is very uncomfortable. And it just makes you uncomfortable. That's the only word I could really think of right now to describe that feeling. And in terms of the harshness, I do believe that harshness is, in a way, a form of abuse, which is another one of my bullet points. That abuse is toxic, is outright toxic. There's no other way to put it. Abuse of any form, physical, verbal, sexual, financial, all that is wrong and it's bad. And families oftentimes have a way of abusing you, but not thinking that they are, just because they think that they're disciplining you. But that's not the case sometimes. And that is a big thing with toxic family traits. Like I said, abuse is bad in any form. Okay, I there's no excuse for it. For me, I don't care how you try to justify it. It's not right. And that can lead to troubled youth as well, because abuse doesn't just stop at you doing this to the person. The person then has adverse effects from it, whether it be them bullying others, harming themselves, acting out, closing themselves off. Either way, abuse hurts in every way, and it leads to broken family connections. And that's just the reality of it. A lot of times in toxic families, I notice that there is a lack of accountability, a lack of boundaries, and a lack of empathy. In terms of the empathy, I will say that from my perspective of how I grew up, there's a lack of empathy because it's like I dealt with this growing up. So what you're dealing with is nothing. It's a certain level of invalidation. Like you just you don't care about what I'm going through because you've been through something that you deem as worse. Either way, pain is pain. It doesn't matter if it was from what something happened to you or what's happening to me. And for you to dismiss what I'm going through because you've been through something that you feel is worse than what I'm going through, that's so unfair. And that is hurtful as well and harmful because that could also lead to broken communication. Because since you don't have empathy for me, I'm just not going to tell you anything now. You don't feel bad for me that I'm hurt, that my feelings are hurt about something you said or something you did to me. All right, I'm gonna just keep it to myself and you probably ain't gonna hear jack shit from me anymore. And when it comes to lack of boundaries, like, oh, you can't have your door locked and stuff like that, or the infamous reading of the diary. It has happened to me. Yes, sweetheart, you are not alone. My diaries got read too. And my thing is, it doesn't even make sense to me because it's like, did you buy me the diary just to read it? Because it's supposed to be something private. It's supposed to be something that only I have access to. Yet you're invading my privacy. And I'm not allowed to have privacy because I'm a child. So what'd you buy me the diary for? And then they be like, oh, I'm reading your diary to make sure you're not building no bomb. Sweetheart, 9 times out of 10, I'm just talking about how I hate everybody. And that's because I'm hormonal and my emotions are all over the place. I ain't thinking about no damn bomb. But, I mean, that's not to say that there are not those rare cases where, you're raising a school shooter. I get it. I do get it, but I also feel like it is such an invasion of privacy. And diaries are something that is supposed to be sacred to you. Especially because, like I said before, your home and your family is supposed to feel like your safe space. And when that is not the case, you need any outlet you can get. Whether that be a diary, whether that be your friends, whether that be a sport or art, either way, you need some type of outlet that is strictly for you, that you can express yourself and have peace and safety and security. And with the lack of boundaries, it goes with the lack of empathy because it's like, I created you, so I don't care how you feel about what I'm doing. And then, a huge example of lack of boundaries was Clifford Harris, T.I., going to all his daughter's checkups to make sure that her hymen was still intact. Mind you, your hymen can break from like horseback riding and like cheerleading and stuff. So even if it was broken, it does not mean she was sexually active, but be it far from me to even, try to dissect that. But that is such an invasion of privacy and such a huge example of lack of boundaries because you don't have to do that and you shouldn't do that. Granted, she was still a minor, but if she was having sex, that is like not your business. It's really not. And then with the lack of accountability, you better not ever tell one of your family members that they're not telling the truth. You better not ever tell one of your family members that they hurt your feelings or offended you or you feel disrespected. Oh, you might as well have called them the worst parent, worst caretaker, worst relative in the world. You might as well have just said that. Just say I'm shit for brains. That's what it is. And you calling me a liar. How dare you? I don't got no reason to lie. But you did. You definitely added details to that story that weren't in there. You definitely put words in my mouth that I didn't say. And if you say I didn't say that, so I'm a liar, but you cannot say yes. Because if you say yes, you get in trouble. Like it's such a conundrum. It truly is. And as someone who has been maturing and been growing and becoming a better person, I know how to take accountability for my actions. Not only because I was raised in scenarios where people didn't, but also because it's like if the evidence is right there, what am I lie for? If you observe me doing something that offends you, and I know what I did, not necessarily not necessarily that I know that I offended you, but I know the actions that I took, and you tell me, "Oh, I seen you do that, and that made me feel some type of way." Why I'm gonna be like, "Oh, I don't even know what you talking about." That what good does that do any of us? Honestly. Lack of accountability, it that's another thing that leads to lack of communication, which is a whole other thing too, because a lot of times in toxic families, communicating is like kind of frowned upon. It's like, don't ask, don't tell because I didn't don't tell because I don't want to know. Don't tell because your problem ain't big enough for me to worry about. It's so many things. And lack of communication, that builds up another barrier. It breaks trust, it makes people uncomfortable and stuff like that. If I'm not able to communicate to you that I feel some way about something, there's going to be a guard up, and I'm not going to want to talk to you about anything. And a lot of times in toxic families, you can't even say that like you're depressed or dealing with mental issues, because it's like you don't got no reason to be depressed. You don't got to do this. You don't got to do that. You don't have no reason to be depressed. Not understanding that it's just my brain chemistry. I didn't ask to be this way. And then you're calling me lazy because I'm laying in bed all day, not knowing that me laying in bed all day is kind of all I can do, because I might be thinking about jumping off. I just might be. And if I communicate that to you, I'm invalidated because I don't have to pay bills like adults do. I don't have to go to work every single day as if school ain't a full-time job, which that's a whole other thing I'm going to talk about later. But like, it's so many different aspects of a lack of communication and lack of accountability and lack of empathy that make it hard to be in these types of families, and it makes it hard to be okay, you know? Just okay. This is another big problem that I have observed in toxic families, and it is internalization. Internalized trauma, grief, and insecurities. All three of those things are kind of the same. They're all one and the same in a way, but I'm going to break it down. Internalized trauma becomes externalized and projected. For example, like I said before, it's like, I went through this, so now you have to go through it. Not thinking that I went through this, so let me prevent you going through this. Let me protect you from going through this. I went through this, so you have to deal with this same pain. I was mistreated, so you gonna get whatever I give you type shit. And I think that is so toxic and unhealthy because it just continues a negative cycle. Instead of trying to change things and make them better, you just continue what was done to you, thinking that it's going to make them a good person because you think you're a good person. Internalized grief is, like I said, one and the same with trauma, because I'm interpreting it as like grief of loss of self. Like, if something transpired in their youth that made them lose a part of themselves that they loved or were passionate about or strongly cared for, they project that onto you. And luckily, my mom kind of broke that cycle with me because she was taught self-hate. But when it came to me and my low self-esteem and my self-hate, she was like, your skin is beautiful. You are beautiful. You are talented. If you want to dance, you dance. If you want to sing, you sing. Even though now, when I be singing randomly, she'd be like, please stop. But anyway, and it troubles me because it's just like my mom did, you don't have to continue that cycle. You can stop it. You don't have to degrade your child because you probably were degraded, or because you didn't feel good enough, because you didn't have the confidence. And then with internalized insecurities is kind of the same thing I was talking about with like the body shaming and stuff like that. Like, just internalized insecurities, like if I wear something that is deemed as like inappropriate, is because you know you couldn't wear something like that. You feel me? That type of shit. And like, I honestly explained this so much better yesterday when I recorded this, and I'm a little frustrated because I wish I at least had it so that I could reinterpret it. Or internalized pain gets projected onto the child, and oftentimes it just continues the toxic cycles and the unhealthy habits and the negativity. It doesn't contribute to growth or love or comfort. And A lot of times I've noticed in toxic families, all the stuff is internalized because of that lack of communication. Because of that communication barrier, it's like I never expressed how I felt about these things because I couldn't. So now I don't want to hear it from you. I don't care what you're going through because nobody cared about what I went through. I'm not going to be there for you emotionally and mentally because nobody was there for me. I picked myself up. And granted, it's like kudos to you for, holding yourself up, but that shouldn't have been the case. As a child, it should not be your responsibility to uphold yourself and everybody else at the same time. Like, it's just it's just unhealthy. That's the best way I could put it. Because it literally leads to that child really not either not wanting shit to do with you or just loving you from a distance. Either way, there is a barrier and a space put in place so that you will not ever know them the way that their friends know them, the way that their partners know them, the way that the whole world knows them because you closed off that opportunity. Just saying. Also, in toxic families, there is either too much control or a lack of control. And that one might hit some people where it hurts because I get it that you want your kid to be able to express themselves the way they want to, but I also think that these kids are growing up too fast. Call me old fashioned. That's just how I feel. But when it comes to too much control, it's like you being so strict, you don't know. You're creating a sneaky child 9 times out of 10. Not all the time, because some kids just take the control and be upset about it. You don't let me go nowhere, fine. I'm not going nowhere. Others sneak out and do this, and that. But too much control and too much pressure on a kid makes that kid, like I said, 9 times out of 10, not all the time, but it makes that kid act out. It makes that kid it's like one of those things where it's like, "Oh, don't look over there." And you look. Because you told me not to look, so now I want to know what it is that I'm not supposed to be looking at. You know what I'm saying? It's that type of situation. And then with lack of control, it's like you let your kid do too much. Like why is your daughter doing a lingerie photo shoot for her 16th birthday? Head scratcher. Because that is inappropriate on so many levels. And I get it that everybody has their own prerogative and it's their life. And like if y'all not new to my page, you know that I'm an advocate for it. It's not my life, it's not my business. However, with certain things, there are things that I just don't agree with. And you don't have to agree with me. That's life. Everybody has an opinion. That's just what it is. But with like lack of control, I feel like sometimes it gets to a point where you've been so lenient with your kid that when they do something you actually don't like, it's hard to rein them in because you've let them wander off so far. And now that you observe something that is not on your frequency, you want to put a stop to it, but it's too late, babes. You didn't already let me do A, B, and C. How you gonna get mad when I do D? Pun slightly intended, I guess, because that's sometimes what it is. Woo! And like I said, a lot of this is coming from personal observations from my own life and from people I've known in my own life and just from stuff that I've read and watched and stuff like that. But as someone who was a troubled teen and I was smoking, drinking, and doing the do all before 18, I kind of know what I'm talking about. Just a little bit, okay? But yeah, and then even with the control and lack of control, the discipline and punishment that comes sometimes is not justified. Like, oh my God. I get in trouble for talking back. No phone, no TV, no video games, no friends. Gotta come straight home from school, all that type of stuff. You could have just gave me a simple talking to. But now you're restricting all of these things because you don't like the way I said something. But the discipline sometimes is very outlandish and unreasonable, and I feel like it does more harm than good. A lot of times it can lead to resentment, and that's a whole other thing too. Sometimes, what I think it goes with the internalization of things, like your family members will resent you because you have more freedom than they did in the time that they were growing up. Like me growing up in the early 2000s to 2010s, I life was different. Clothes were different, media was different, and I consumed a lot of media as a kid. TV, movies, magazines, and then the rise of social media. I've observed a lot over the years. It did lead me to grow up too fast and want to grow up too fast. And like I grew resentful and jealous of other people because I would see that they had more freedom than I did. Like when I was in high school, I would see girls with piercings and tattoos, and I'd be like, damn, I wish. I wish, but I can't because my mom will not let me. Mm-mm. There was a time I couldn't really wear crop tops like that. And like, or wear shirts with low cleavage, with low cuts that showed cleavage. Even if I'm not trying to show cleavage, I just couldn't wear it, or I had to wear something under it. If I wear a skirt, I had to wear leggings under it. Like, yeah, discipline and punishment sometimes is like the same thing with the lack of boundary, lack of control that I was saying. Like, it can lead to the kid being very sneaky and just being more. Kid will start to get into shit just because you told them not to put their hand in the cookie jar. Now they eating all the cookies out the cookie jar type shit. You feel me? But another trait that I've observed in toxic families is lying and manipulation. The lying is kind of straightforward, just like you ain't telling the truth. Especially, I've observed this more so in like media where like the family tries to hide such a big truth from the kid, hoping that the kid won't find out and stuff like that. Like, if my mama is really my grandma and my oldest sister is really my mama and my mama had me at like 12, 13, I get it that that's something that's like, whoa, crazy, but why not just tell me that? Why hide it and lie to me my whole life? That did not happen to me. I'm just saying an example. Because, like, I feel like that does more harm than good. Just be truthful, be honest, be open about this type of stuff because I feel like that is more healing and nurturing than trying to keep it a secret. And in terms of the manipulation, I'm pretty sure all of us have heard this. I brought you into this world. I raised you. I put clothes on your back and food in your stomach and a roof over your head. You have to do this for me. You owe me. You gonna have to take care of me when I get older because I raised you. In the words of Jasmine's Garden, I'm about to say something that is going to disrupt your cognitive dissonance. And you will tune me out the moment you feel triggered. However, I'm still going to say this. Just because you made that child does not mean you deserve a gold frickin' medal. That child did not ask to be born, did not ask to be conceived or born, or kept by you. And it is your legal and familial obligation to take care of that child. You will go to jail if you don't house, clothe, and feed that child. It is literally your responsibility that you assumed when you had that baby. Don't nobody owe you shit for that. You do not applaud a fish for swimming. Hello? Hello? Like, making kids obligated to help you or do something for you because they're your child. That makes no sense to me. And once I got old enough, I definitely told my mom, like, I ain't even asked to be here for real. You could have scooted me out the boot. You could have. So don't try to make it my fault or my problem to do all this shit for you because you had me. But yeah, like that form of manipulation of I brought you in this world so you owe me, complete bullshit to me. I do not support it at all. And that also, from my perspective, gives the child a sense of guilt. Like, my mom has said things, and I've told her about this like as I got older, but like, you telling me that you were doing this, this, and that, and then you got pregnant with me, and you making me feel like I ruined your whole life, and I made you put your life to a stop when I didn't even know because I was just becoming me. Like, I didn't ask to be born. I didn't know you were gonna go here and do this when before you got pregnant with me. I didn't know that. And I apologize for being the egg and the sperm that ruined your life. You know what I'm saying? It makes you feel guilty and it makes you feel like a burden. And for you to make your child feel like a burden, I just feel like, mm, all right, that's just me. Just saying. I'm not talking to you, Ma. I'm saying, all right? Like, that's it. Now, on to the second part of this video, the troubled youths. Youths. I see a lot of people talking about this, especially on TikTok and Twitter, about the lack of third spaces slash places, both for adults and children. For example, there are no teen clubs. And like growing up, we lived in Georgia for 8 years, and like I always heard about teen clubs. Um, I was never allowed to go, but I heard about teen clubs, and basically it was a club environment for it's pretty self-explanatory, but it was a club environment for teenagers. You get to hear the club music and stuff like that, socialize and party, but of course no alcoholic beverages and stuff like that. But it's just a place for kids to have fun and give them a sort of adult experience. I looked it up. Ain't now teen club nowhere to be found right now. As far as my research went, maybe I didn't look further enough. Maybe I didn't go to page 15 of Google. But from what I've seen, there are no teen clubs. And I'm not gonna lie, once I'm on, I probably would end up opening a chain of teen clubs so that kids have a place where they can party and feel grown, but not really be in the mix with grown people. Because no shade, I do not want to be in no club with no 17-year-old, no 18-year-old. I don't. I don't. I really don't. Like a few weeks ago or a few months ago, I went to a club in my area and I'm at the bar getting a drink. And this 19-year-old boy tried to come up and get my number. He was like, "Oh yeah, you're really pretty, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Thanks." He's like, "How old are you?" I was like, "I'm 26." He goes, "Oh my God." He's like, "Well, you look good for your age." I'm like, "Thank you." He's like, um, "Would you date me?" And I was like, no. Because for one, I just wouldn't. And two, I was like, "You look like a baby." He's like, "Guess how old I am?" I'm like, 19. He goes, "Yeah, how'd you know?" I'm just like, please back away from me. I have siblings and cousins in your age group. Go talk to them. They wouldn't even want to talk to you even. No shade. But like, no. If you're not, I honestly don't want to associate, aside from my family members, with anyone under like 23, 24. Because we're not in the same mental capacity. We are not on the same wavelength and vibrations and frequencies. You think about things in a completely different way than I do, which is a whole other thing. Like, I don't want to be on social media with the teenagers. Like, I don't want to see no little girl talking about she thinking about dick, and then her next tweet is her talking about her principal calling her mom because she skipped class. Like, I ain't saying we need to have separate social media apps, but maybe like an age filter. But even that gets tricky because it's not like I wasn't lying about my age to have a Facebook page and shit like that. So I don't know. But there's no teen clubs. There's no teen stores either. No teen clothing stores like Wet Seal, Libby Lou, Limited to. Um, the kids don't care about no Aeropostale anymore, but like stuff like that. Nowadays, these kids got the same stuff we got. The girls got the Fashion Nova and the Shein and the Pretty Little Thing and the Nasty Gal and the Dolls Kill. The boys got Amiri, Kasubi, Balenciaga, V-Lone, Denim Tier. Like, they got the stuff that we got. And sometimes they be dressing more adult than me. No shade, no judgment, just observation. Be wearing the poster girl dresses. I don't even wear no poster girl. There's no more teen stores. They don't have access to teenage hood. It's just like you're the age of a teenager, but you're basically an adult. Your brain ain't no adult, but your clothes are, your job is, your time, whatever you do with your time is, like, it's actually kind of crazy. And then even with parks, a lot of parks have gotten shut down or their hours are limited. Like parks in New York City are closed at like 9, 10 p.m. now. And my thing is, I get it because it does help to alleviate crime and stuff like that. However, sometimes these places are the only place that kids feel safe because their at home life is not a safe place for them, safe space for them. They would rather be in the park till whatever hour of the night because they feel more comfortable because they have a bit more peace of mind. And like even with libraries, some kids Granted, not all kids like the library, but some kids don't mind sitting in a library for hours on end. But libraries have lost funding because some of these cities want to fund police and military and stuff. Education loses money, but anyway, that's not what this video is about. Calm down. But yeah, like even libraries are a safe space for kids to be because I've even done that. I've sat in the library for hours and written in my diary, got my homework done, and just sat there just because. Nobody's yelling at me, nobody's pestering me or making me feel bad or making me feel like I'm not doing enough. And it just, there are certain things in certain places where it's like you have peace of mind. But these kids don't really have that anymore. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I am kind of snitching on myself with this, but like I said, I was smoking before the age of 18. I was smoking in high school. And there were times where I wanted to smoke late at night, but I'm not reckless enough to do it in the house. So I would walk to the park down the block from my crib, have my music. Of course, it is unsafe because, like strangers and stuff like that. But I also just felt at peace. I was able to do my stuff and just be chill, get some fresh air, maybe sit on a swing if I want to, and just have a little chill downtime without fear of judgment or discomfort. But nowadays, I'll probably have to climb a gate to get to the park. I'm not doing all of that. I mean, I'm grown now, but you feel me? Like, it's just not having access to those spaces definitely does create more issues. And believe it or not everybody wants to go speak to a therapist. So sometimes these places are the only outlet you have. And that's just that. And I already mentioned how I don't want to be on social media with these kids. That is one of another big trouble I see with the youth now. Because of the age of technology and the era of social media, they have consumed so much that there's a certain level of just like, I guess, feeling incomplete, feeling invalid, feeling like they're not enough because they see people with this, and that. They see people living here, traveling there, wearing this, doing that. And it's like, damn, I want that too. And that's kind of how I became a troubled teen as well, because I grew up watching music videos like Yeah by Usher and thinking, I want to be this girl in the club. Not realizing that adulthood is so much more than that, and 9 times out of 10 you're not even gonna have the time or energy to be in that party like you want to, and the clubs don't even hit the way they did back then. But anyway, like, social media has a way of leading you to be expecting things or looking for things or desiring things, and not necessarily that it's without reason, but it's just like your time will come for that, baby. Like, I've even had to tell my little sister, babe, sorry for putting you on blast like this, but I've had to tell her, like, I know you want to hurry up and be grown and have your own place and stuff like that, but it's not all cutesy, tootsy, lovey dovey. Bills are a real thing and they come every single month. Responsibilities are a real thing and they are always going to be there. You can't just buy up all the trinkets and stuff that you want. You actually have to take care of stuff. And adulthood is, it only looks glamorous on social media because that's what people share. And I literally said all this to her. Like, Aaliyah's interlude, we don't know what she deals with internally or with her family or anything like that, because she doesn't post that. She posts her cute outfits and her energy and her cute music, and that's it. Because that's what she wants to show. So of course it's easy to admire her and want her life and want her wardrobe, because you don't know if she goes home at the end of the day and cries her heart out. You don't know if she goes home and is like, all right, because I'm a big influencer, content creator, artist, model, or whatever, I got to carry my whole family on my back and pay everybody's mortgage and rent and buy them cars and stuff like that. We don't know. We will never know unless she was to share that with us. And social media really does have a way of, I hate even using this buzzword, but rotting your brain, because you're just constantly consuming all this stuff and it leads you to think, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I want this, but I don't have it. Does that mean I don't deserve it? And baby, that is not the case at all. At all. And it sucks that that even happens, but it's natural. It really is. It's unfortunate, but it is very natural. And I do think that social media has also led to a lack of social skills, which I'm going to talk about more with another one of my points. But it's phones, like technology and social media have kind of disconnected people. Forget the age group. It's like, oh yeah, hey, how you doing? Nah, 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 nah. Yeah, yeah. You know, like there's a disconnect now. Sometimes people don't know how to hold a conversation, and I'm not gonna act like I'm not guilty of it, especially dealing with anxiety and stuff like that. Sometimes your phone is your safe space because it gives you something to look at, so you don't have to look at other people and stuff. But I have a limit because I do know how to engage in a conversation. I do know how to hold a conversation, but with social media, it's like they'll have a full conversation through TikTok videos, but then when they get in person, they're just on their phone. They're not actually talking to each other or interacting. Bizarre. I feel like an old head saying this type of shit, but honestly, so be it. Um, and to go in more with the lack of social skills, I do think that COVID contributed a lot of stuff to how these kids are nowadays because they were isolated. Everybody was isolated. And solitude can be very isolating. That's the only way I could put it. Because you're used to being only around yourself and your family at this point, and it leads you to like our brain chemistries did change from that shit because our state of living was so altered. And I do believe that that has also led to a lack of social skills. I could be wrong, but it's just my opinion. Speaking of other lacks, there is a lack of education with these kids. And I mean that in the schools and in the homes. There is a big disparity between knowledge and the youth. In terms of home, I'm talking about like street smarts, common sense, social cues, and boundaries. A lot of times, these kids don't know how to act around people because they weren't taught what's inappropriate to say or do. That's on the families, honestly. And you can't get mad at a teacher for telling you if your kid is doing this, and that when they picked it up from somewhere, they observed it from somewhere. Whether that be from another kid whose families didn't do them right, or whether it be from y'all, these kids saw this stuff somewhere and it has led them to act this way. That's just what it is. And in terms of lack of education in the school, that's another thing that COVID affected because they were behind a computer screen for months. Some of them were actively in class on that Zoom, or some of them were sleeping, or eating, or online shopping, or playing video games, or doing whatever. Who knows? All the stuff they could have been doing while they got their name up on the computer screen. That and then the change of curriculum, it's like they're not really learning anything. And I do have a slight conspiracy theory that the education system is in shit now because they don't care. They just want these kids. It's daycare. It's daycare for kids and preteens and teenagers, so that the parents can go to work for this country, and then you graduate and you go to work for this country, and the cycle just continues. And now they got more workers for this fuck ass economy. You feel me? But that's just my opinion. I don't want to get too much into that. The curriculum is not really a thing anymore. It's just like, read this, write a paper. Read this, do the math. Like, there's no actual teaching from what I've seen. And that's scary to me. A lot of these kids cannot spell. I saw a video of a teacher. I think it was around Valentine's Day or Teacher Appreciation Week or something. She told the kids to make cards for somebody they loved and appreciated. So she gave them a piece of paper and told them to draw whatever, write whatever they wanted. She had a piece of paper herself because she was doing a card for herself, and she folded it to make a card. One of her students asked her, "Miss, where can I get that type of paper?" And she was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "I want the paper you have, the folded one." She's like, "I have the same paper you have." He's like, "No, yours is folded. Where did you get that one? I want that one." She was like, "Sweetheart, just take the paper and fold it over." And he was like, "Oh my God." That is worrisome. That is so worrisome. These kids don't be knowing the twos from the twos and the twos and the theirs from the theirs and the weather versus rather and then the weather rain versus the weather with the H. Like, oh my God, they don't be knowing this stuff. And I know I'm saying they don't be knowing, but I talk like that because I can. I'm actually very smart. Don't try it. But yeah, like the lack of education is very prominent and very easy to observe because it's everywhere. So yeah, I do believe that the lack of education and the lack of teaching within schools and homes contributes to troubled teens because if they knew better, they'd do better. Simple as that. Moving on. There is I don't want to say era, but there is a thing about shame that plagues all of us, all generations. Because it happened to me when I was in school. Like, if you are abnormal or you're seen as like weird and stuff like that, you're judged and shamed. We all know about the anime kid trope and them being the weirdo and stuff like that. I think that is so ignorant and counterproductive because first of all, it ain't your business what people like or don't like as long as it's not harming anybody, but also why is it your problem? Why do you want to not like them because they like something that you deem as weird? That don't make no sense to me. They minding their business. You do the same. You feel me? Like, I was bullied as a little girl. My siblings were bullied. A lot of people I know were bullied because we were seen as weirdos. Little did we know that we all neurodivergent. But anyway, woo! That shame and stuff can lead you to not be yourself. And I'm speaking from personal experience because I was always seen as a weirdo, especially because I did not grow up rich and affluent, so I didn't always have what everybody else had in terms of like clothes and devices and so I was seen as weird for that, and I was seen as weird because I was quiet. I was a music and drama nerd. I was good at math, kinda. I'm really smart though. I love English class. And once I became noticed and somewhat accepted by popular kids, my priorities would go out the window. Now I'm getting talkative on my report cards and stuff like that and easily distracted because I want to be cool. I wish that I could be like the cool kids type shit. Literally. Like that song really hit me because I was one of those people who wished I could be like the cool kids. Because all the cool kids, they seem to get in. Like literally that was my life. Um and I prioritized social status over being myself and being comfortable in my own skin. Cozy. And like it's just crazy to me that it's such a real thing. And it's happened to more than just me. Like even sorry to put you on blast again, little girl. But even my little sister, I've had to tell her, like, sweetie, I get that you're happy that you have you a little clique, but don't lose sight of what's important, which is your grades and stuff like that. Um, because friends come and go. Bitches come and go, you know that. And if they don't accept you for the things that you like and the things you want to wear and the way you act and the way you look, they ain't your friend in the first place. And you don't need to be around that type of person. But like, it literally plagues so many kids slash teens that they want to be a part of the in crowd, so they choose to not be themselves. They choose to not honor their true identities. And that breaks my heart. As someone who did it, I know I used to feel uncomfortable. I even did it in college, would be around people who I didn't really like, and I knew they didn't like me. I knew they was talking shit about me, but I'm like, you know what? F it. They cool. I'm gonna be cool. Like, whatever. And it makes you lose a part of yourself when you're trying to please other people and live up to their standards of what you should be like. And that's just unfair. And it's sad. And it happens with every generation. And the last point I have is sneakiness. But that honestly goes back in with the toxic family stuff because half the time these kids are sneaky because they feel like they have no other choice. Um, and as someone who was sneaky, I did it because I felt like I had no choice. Because I can't be like this outwardly, so I'm gonna have to be like this secretly. It's just the way things have become because of the pressure that toxic families put on you. Unfortunate, but very, 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 very true. In my final thoughts, I just want to say I don't judge anybody for being a toxic family member or being a troubled person because of having toxic family. As someone who was a troubled teenager because of a toxic family, I resonate, I empathize, I understand. As someone who is in therapy working through trauma and pain and all that type of stuff, I get it. If anybody gets it, it's me. And I do want to offer up a safe space for anybody who feels like they need to vent or just, get things off their chest because, like I said, I've been there. I see you. I know you. I am you. So I feel you. And I got you. And I love you. And you are appreciated and valued. Even for just watching this video, you are appreciated and valued. If nobody has told you today, I'm proud of you. Oh, that's another thing I guess I should mention with toxic families, with the lack of communication. Sometimes there's a lack of like accolades because they feel like you should just be a good kid. So I shouldn't applaud you for it because you should just do what I expect you to do. But sometimes it's simple, I'm proud of you. I see what you're doing in school, I see what you're doing with your chores and stuff like that, and I appreciate you. And I thank you. You don't even get that sometimes. And I get it that, like I said, you don't applaud a fish for swimming, but like, god damn, can I get a pat on the back every now and then? Like, you feel me? It's just that simple. So I do believe that like lacking or overflow of certain things leads to toxic families and negativity in the household. And a lot of times it's not 100% the fault of the parent because a lot of times they're just doing what they were taught and what was done to them. But that does not justify it because once you get to a certain point mentally, it is your responsibility to know better and do better and show better. And at a certain point, it doesn't, especially if it doesn't change, it just feels like, yeah, no, this ain't gonna work. Once I'm old enough, I'm outies. And that's kind of what I did. I went away for college and I've lived away ever since. I do go home every now and then, but it would be like it would be very sporadic and it would be on my own terms because sometimes you don't want to deal with the homophobia. You don't want to deal with the judgment of if you stay in bed till 1 p.m. You don't want to deal with that type of stuff. Especially when you already have the burden of like mental health issues or, you know, friend troubles or relationship troubles and you're being told that shit doesn't matter and stuff like that. Nobody wants to deal with that. Nobody deserves to deal with that, and that's just that. That's it for this video. Let me know if you think I missed anything in the comments or let me know how you feel about this video in general. Thank you guys for watching. Once again, my goal is 500 subscribers. I'm almost at 100. And once I get to 100, I will be posting the NGL link for anonymous questions and I will do a Q&A for a get to know me video. Please like, share, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. I love you. I hope you love you. And I hope you love me. But baby, if you don't, it is quite all right. Because I love me enough for the both of us, babes. I'll see you in the next one. Peace!